name is Jenna Herr, and I'm a 2019 MBA graduate of the Wisconsin School of Business. Welcome to the WSB MBA and MS podcast and webinar. Today, we're going to talk about the risk management and insurance specialization of the full-time MBA program. I'm going to visit with Carl Barlett, who is a risk management and insurance faculty and lawyer, leading innovative courses such as cyber risk and regulation. Welcome, Carl.
Hi, Jenna. Thanks for taking some time out of your workday to be with us here. And I think a good start would just be if you could tell us a little bit about what your career was like before your risk and insurance MBA and now what you're doing.
Sure. So prior to my MBA, I worked in economic development, which is a field that really straddles the government and business realm. So I wasn't in risk management and insurance before I came to Wisconsin. And it was really through that role that I gained a great appreciation for the role of risk management and insurance in the whole economy. So that's what led me to pursue my MBA at Wisconsin. Now I manage a corporate risk and insurance program for Kearney, which is a global management consulting firm. My role involves enterprise risk management, as well as the placement, negotiation, and renewal of our global insurance program.
Awesome. So given what you know now and what you're doing now, are there any kind of highlights or things that you'd like to spotlight from your MBA experience that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really quite intentional about selecting an MBA with a specialization because I knew that I wanted to be a leader in this field. And so the main highlights for me are truly the combination of, being able to build that technical expertise in risk and insurance through the curriculum. And then that combined with just really frequent exposure to current and future leaders in the field. And I'm still in touch with many Wisconsin alumni, including those who came before me in risk management and insurance, as well as the people in my class and those who came after me. And it's just a real great source of collaboration and advice as I'm making decisions on behalf of my company. I'm curious from your perspective, Carl, of course, at the heart of any MBA experience is the faculty and curriculum. Can you tell prospective students how the curriculum will prepare them for their future careers?
Yeah, and I should add, I'm a former risk and insurance MBA myself, as well as current faculty member. And so I've experienced this both from, the perspective of a student going through some of this curriculum to now designing it and helping kind of impart it myself. And so hopefully the perspective is valuable. I think one of the things that I found kind of have the most relative value compared to maybe your general MBA programs or things that don't have these specializations is I just got so much diversity of thought. And I think our faculty really represents that in the program. And so, like you mentioned earlier, I am a lawyer, an MBA. I worked in management consulting on a global basis before I came here. Our department director worked at a Fortune 15 company as their risk manager, a PhD in insurance. You've got a PhD in finance in our department, a PhD in economics, who publishes a lot of papers on behavioral biases and how we make decisions, how you design processes at companies to avoid those biases affecting your decisions. A lot of experience in analytics with all of the craze that's going on right now, and a master's of analytics being developed to kind of partner with the MBA. There are just so many different ways of looking at problems out there in the world that I think one of the things that we can sometimes lack when we go into a specific track or specialization is that diversity of thought. And you really get it amplified, I think, in our program. And so when you're thinking about like, what are the skills that I need to get from my curriculum to be successful out there in the world right now? I mean, problem solving and critical thought seem to come to the forefront. And while certainly there is technical terminology or terms of art that you need to know that are in those books that help get explained by faculty members, I think the problem solving aspect, the forward looking things are really where you're going to get to work with the material, work with the problems that the world is facing out there, and try to prepare yourself for solving those things when there's really no book in front of you to help you do so, right? People that work in our industry know, look, you're dealing with variability and future outcomes. You're dealing with uncertainty. There is no book that tells you the answer to these things. And so you need to be able to think in so many different ways and approach problems in so many different ways to be able to come up with solutions that might not exist yet, and be able to, importantly, I think, explain that value. And so the curriculum also includes a lot of communication elements. You not only have to come up with, potential answers or solutions to these problems, but you have to actually present them. You have to be able to communicate what the value of what your suggestions are. And so I really enjoyed that about our curriculum. And I think that I've hopefully added value in doing so from the faculty side as well. And I'd love to hear your perspective. You came through the program even more recently than I did. How do you think, given your current role at Kearney, that the curriculum prepared you for that job and has allowed you to succeed the way you have?
Yeah, thank you. I think what you said is spot on, Carl. In my view, some of the most important points in any curriculum are really to have that strong foundation, like I was saying earlier about building that technical expertise in risk and insurance, but then also you're learning how to learn. And it's about how to ask critical questions and bring out the best in others so that you're really pushing that frontier. And so that when you encounter modern problems, you can think through them, collaborate, and figure out some modern solutions. Well, so what I learned at Wisconsin really gave me enough knowledge to ask those critical questions and to engage others within the industry, whether I'm interacting with mentors, brokers, underwriters, or other risk managers, and then especially to your point about communicating other leaders within my company, so that we're really thinking more strategically about risk management and insurance. So then, of course, there's much more to the program than just the curriculum. Can you highlight some of the experiences that students would have outside of the classroom?
Yeah, and I think this is where every program has these networking opportunities, meet an industry professional. I think there is something different about Wisconsin in general, but also our specialization, where the alumni really feel like they have a relationship with the students. You feel like they are personally invested in your education, whether that's meeting them through a speaker event where we've got a CEO or a CFO or a global risk manager that's taking time out of their busy schedule to come talk about this problem that they're facing in the middle of a crisis to our students, and helping them to understand the context of what they're dealing with out there in the business world. And then interacting with them afterwards. You'll go so far as having these professionals in there helping you do mock interviews and things, having conversations about what career tracks you might be interested in. It really feels like a back and forth that adds I have my own views, but as much, if not more, value than just kind of the stuff that you're getting in the classroom. Beyond that, I really do think that this kind of concept of applied learning, of hey, this is the stuff that we learned how to do. Now you have to actually apply it to something to ingrain it and allow you to work with it well, is taken very seriously by our program. A good example is what we call the Applied Learning Project in the Wisconsin Risk and Insurance Specialization. Every year, our students work with a company, and usually a liaison from that company, whether it's the CFO or the global risk manager, leads the project, gives our students some problem that they're dealing with right now out there. And throughout the semester, the MBAs work with undergrads to help try to create solutions for that person, for that company. And you work throughout the semester, create risk reports, create kind of risk identification mechanisms, whatever it is that they're asking for, and then you actually get to present your real work product to this company. So we worked for United Airlines risk manager one semester. We took students down at the end after having a lot of conversations throughout the semester and doing work on creating a risk dashboard for them and helping them track all of their risks and understand what was happening, then presenting some risk transfer solutions as a result of those findings. They got to take them down to Chicago, to the United headquarters at Willis Tower, and actually present in front of executives what they had found about their risks over the course of the semester. We've done a cyber risk analysis for a large American bicycle manufacturer. There's always something. So it's each year there will be a full semester that this is part of your program, but there's also things like case competitions going on. Our MBAs last year took part in the AM Best case competition. It's a year-long competition where last year they had to create an insurance or a financial product that helped transfer some modern risk where there wasn't really a product out there in the market at the moment. Our MBAs, two of our teams made the top three. We won the competition as well. Those types of experiences are invaluable, again, because you're not just interacting with industry or having a lunch or something like that, even though those happen, but you're getting to work with them. You're working side by side with these professionals, with these alumni, with people that you're going to be going out there into the working world with. And that's a hard experience to beat. And so you will see that to kind of be a constant piece of our program, which is, I think I consider it part of the curriculum. So it's a little bit hard to differentiate, but you will have as much, if not more, of the out of the classroom valuable experiences than you will in the classroom. And when you're dealing with all of the uncertainty that's going on out there in the world with, COVID and supply chains being disrupted and all of the things that everybody's talking about right now, nobody's like, you didn't know that was going to happen before coming into the MBA. And so the idea that you're going to have that in a textbook, pretty unrealistic, right? But now all of these things that you're getting to do are talking about how to solve these problems. And so it really gives you, I think, a lot of very applicable and current value in what is going on out there in the business world and how do you contribute once you get out there, because you're already starting while you're in the program itself.
Oh, I agree. That experience is so valuable, and especially that applied learning consulting project. It really gave me an opportunity to put myself in the shoes of the risk manager and think about how are we going to present this to an audience that's not as familiar with these concepts. And so when I started my job, also on the corporate side, I was really ready to go with that, having had that experience and also built that mentorship type relationship with the risk manager that I worked with, where they're familiar with my work as well and could advise me on those issues a little bit more closely. So I'm curious, Carl, what types of positions do you usually see students secure after graduation?
Yeah, so this is always the difficult question for people in our program because, and this is a good problem to have, but it can be frustrating at times, is there's not one career path for risk and insurance. You don't come out and you go become a junior level associate in a specific title and then move up in this predictable manner. It's look, the industry is about unpredictability. It's about unknowns out there, and how do you create potential solutions for things that we're not sure are going to happen or not. And so that skill set, that ability to take information that's out there, identify risks, potentially transfer them, potentially retain them, understand how to most efficiently manage those resources that your company has, those limited resources they have. That's a skill that is pretty broadly applicable. So we hate to narrow it down because we see students go into a ton of different areas, a plethora. But I think there are kind of three main categories of ways that you can think about the business world where students are going to be kind of filtering into one of those three. So the first one would be the actual company, the enterprise, the corporate entity. You have a lot of students go into those companies and help them internally understand what their risks are, identify them, understand what options they have to potentially transfer them, retain them. How do we allocate those resources that we have to manage this risk most effectively over time? Then you have the people that are trying to understand those companies' risks and potentially be the transfer mechanism, right? The insurance companies, the reinsurers, the financial entities that are more and more creating these products that transfer risk, like derivative products, parametric type stuff. All of that end of stuff, the risk transfer kind of side of the industry. A huge amount of people like going into that. They say, look, I don't want to just work for one company. I want to see all of these risks kind of throughout the industry out there and figure out how do we best bring those over to our company? How do we most effectively understand what these risks are? That can be in any kind of typical insurance space, whether it's underwriting or product development, management of the insurance company, but also a lot of financial roles are increasingly available. And then you've got this kind of area in the middle of those two. So the corporate side and the risk transfer side that now sits there and is becoming, I think, probably one of the most in-demand ones that we now see for our students, which is like this area of risk consulting, advisory, and brokerage. And what they typically do is they work for the corporate entity and they help them understand their risks. They help them understand what their options are and maybe provide advice, recommendations, this is the typical consulting. You get the PowerPoints, you help them understand what their kind of potential solutions are. My experience in consulting is nobody's ever going to pick the just one. So you've got to come up with several potential solutions, right? And then you help them actually create that transfer mechanism. So you go negotiate with the insurance company, you analyze the contracts, you help them understand what the implications of this are over time and help them track that. And so we are seeing a lot of demand for risk consultants, risk advisory positions, brokers that look more and more like service providers, not just placing insurance anymore, but actually advising a company for our students, because really they don't know what problem they're going to face on any given day, right? And so you have to be able to roll with that and use what I really think when I talk about our curriculum is it's providing you tools, right? It's your tool belt. And can you take those tools and apply it to whatever problem kind of comes up? And that's really what that area of the industry is. And so I know that's not like one answer, like what jobs, like there's not always just specific titles, but I think we are seeing that tool belt, that skill set that you get here be applied in a plethora of different ways that are going to give you a lot of options. And I hope those three kind of categories at least give you some idea of where you can apply that stuff that you've learned.
Yeah.
I want to be conscious of time. I know that we've got 15, 20 minutes. I don't know if you have anything to add to that. You're welcome to as well. But
No, that's great. I think you hit the nail on the head.
So I just wanted to take some time to also thank Jenna for being here. She is working right now. We all are, even though we're in our homes, obviously during this COVID time. So thank you, Jenna, for taking time out of your job to be with us here today. I do think that for everybody listening, look, this is a process. There's nothing that you're going to see in one video that's just going to make up your mind. If this is kind of stimulated interest or caused you to have some questions, please do reach out to us with questions. That can be through the admissions office. If you wanted to email mba@wsb.wisc.edu, they will definitely pass those along if you have questions about risk and insurance to us, but also feel free to reach out to us directly in the risk and insurance department. We really like having those conversations and trying to figure out whether the program is right for you, right? We don't want this to be a one size fits all thing, but to figure out whether your background kind of leads you to certain natural paths and what you might be able to do if you came and got an MBA in risk and insurance here. And so given that, hopefully you found this valuable, and I hope to see you in a future class. Thanks again, Jenna. Have a good one.
Carl.